All right, I'm Jerry. I'm an addict. My sobriety date is July 4th, 2015. I just got the chance to celebrate 9 years of continuous sobriety. Believe it or not, every time I share, I do get nervous. So, some of you guys are saying you're nervous. I'm always nervous before I speak. But yeah, I want to share my experience, strength, and hope. And I just ask you guys identify with the feelings. And my story might be different than yours, and if you could do a good job of trying to identify, I think this will be a pretty good meeting. So yeah, my story is I was always a good kid growing up, as far as elementary school goes. My parents, my mom and dad, they gave me everything I ever wanted. Christmases were incredible, because my dad was a drug dealer, which I didn't know at the time, but we always had the best of the best of everything. My mom, still has her job today in the trucking business doing payroll, which doesn't bring in too much money, about 50, 60 grand a year, but my dad was a drug dealer, so we've always had exclusive stuff, for the house, which was always pretty cool, like pool tables, ping pong tables, the best baseball bats when I was playing Little League and all that type of stuff, So I was always spoiled, me and my sister as a kid. And didn't really find out what my dad was doing until I was about like 12 years old. I asked my mom, early on, like, what does like daddy do? There's all these old Italian men that are wearing suits that are coming to the house every day, and there's just briefcases and money being exchanged, and I kind of put two and two together as I got older and realized, but yeah, like I said, elementary school great, middle school okay, good kids still, A's and B's. Then when I got to high school, freshman year, I got introduced to like marijuana, so I started smoking pot, which was incredible at the time. I loved it, rebelling a little bit against my family, staying out later than I should have, not really following the rules as much, and my dad was barely home at the time, so I was able to get away with a lot, and I remember playing sports in high school, and I was a pretty damn good athlete until the drugs took over. High school was pretty weird for me. Had a lot of people that, I thought were my friends, but they really weren't. They were just like acquaintances, And I'm smoking weed one day, and I'll never forget in this dip can in high school, this kid pulls out like the brand was Skull, I'll never forget. And I said, "Hey, dude, like, what's in that?" He's like, "Well, it ain't dip. I got Percocets in here." So I was like, "Oh shit, I never even heard of that stuff." You know what I mean? Um, and for some reason, I watched him make some money, and I'm like, "Oh man, this kid is making some money off these things. Like, maybe I should start doing that." You know what? First, I'm gonna start with weed. I'll sell weed and see how that goes. Started selling weed, smoking a lot more. And by the time sophomore year came around, same kid is still in high school, and I said, "Fuck it, I'm gonna, start selling that stuff." This kid's friggin' got, all the Jordans. He's got, gold chains in high school. I'm like, this guy's treating himself to all these things. I want to be like that. And so I ended up getting a few Percocets off this guy, sold them, went well, pretty easy. And then one day I got curious and tried it, and I was hooked. It was the best thing I've ever felt in my life. And I still remember that feeling, that warm, fuzzy feeling. And I remember myself scratching. I'm like, oh man, this is fucking incredible. So I start doing it more and more, and then I found out my grandmother, my nanny, who was my mom's mom, is living in the house, and I started to get more information on what Percocet was and what not. It's a pain reliever, and old people usually take it. Hit up the medicine cabinet, and boom, jackpot. There's the whole bottle in my medicine cabinet at home. slowly started to steal those. And then my mom is like, what the hell's going on? Yelling at my grandmother saying, how are you doing all these things? You just got the prescription and whatnot. So that turned into a big fight, which ultimately found out that I was actually the one stealing it. And my mom got upset, super upset. During all this time, right, my dad ended up going to prison. Um, so I didn't really have my dad much of high school. And even after high school as well, he got arrested for selling drugs and a handgun and went away for a long time. So now it's just me, my mom, my sister, in the house with my grandmother at the time. So I'm the only man in the house. And, I'm not really acting like a man. I'm acting like a little child and a little boy. And it just got worse and worse and worse. Every year of high school was, I was incredible, freshman year in baseball and really good my sophomore year. Junior year, pretty good. And then I just started to fall off and baseball wasn't really important much anymore in my life. All that was important was taking Percocets. My junior year, um, at the end of my junior, I'd say summer going into my senior year, I found out about heroin. Uh, Pills started to get expensive. Um, my mom found out I was doing the pills and, she couldn't stop me, as much as she tried, I didn't really give a fuck. There was nobody to really reprimand me. My dad was away. He was the man of the house. Um, and he found out about what I was doing from jail and he would call and there's not much he can do from behind a cell, right? He would call and scream at me and whatnot. So I get introduced to heroin. Um, I found out a couple of the guys in town who were doing pills like me because we were all clicked up and had our little cliques and whatnot. And they started doing heroin, and I said, "Fuck it, I'll try that too." These things are so cheap. I can get high for $5 and be high pretty much the whole day, right? So I get introduced to that, and then boom, that feeling came back again. That like, holy shit, this is the best thing I ever tried in my life. And it was not. It was not. It felt like it was great at the time, but it was not. And it took me down this really, really dark path, which I'll get into now. And my past is pretty dark. And going into senior year, I was just a really bad kid. And that's where I started to do a lot of my stealing and stuff like that. And I'm taking my sister's Macs and selling them at the pawn shop and taking my mom's purses, Gucci, Louis Vuitton purses at the time and bringing them to the pawn shop. And it just got so bad so quick. Believe it or not, during this whole time, I get a scholarship to play baseball in college, which is half academic and half sports for Caldwell University. So I end up going to Caldwell University, which I don't know how the hell this happened, but I go there and gonna play baseball there. I'm obviously gonna go to school there. And I'm still doing heroin during this whole entire time. During this whole process, I'm doing heroin. And it was my freshman year of college. And I found out the good idea. I said, you know what? I'm gonna get away from my mom. I'm gonna get away from my sister, get away from everybody. I'm a man now. I'm gonna dorm here. Because all I had to take out loans for was the dorming. Everything else was pretty much free, besides like the meal plan and whatnot. So I decided to dorm there, and the college was only like 20, 30 minutes away from home. So I get there my first night, smoking pot. I was living in a freshman dorm, but somehow they put me with a junior and a senior, which was, in a three-bedroom like dorm. So I'm with them, and they say, "Hey, Jerry, you want to go smoke some pot?" So I'm like, "Yeah, fuck. I'd love to smoke some pot. Let's go do it." So we go and smoke pot, and it's great. And I asked him, I'm like, "Hey, dude, anybody, do like heroin here?" Like, what? It's like, dude, you're at a private Catholic college. What the fuck are you talking about? How high are you? So I brushed it off. And so I decided to start selling marijuana again there. And that's when I got caught. So I dormed there for about, I'd say, 6 weeks, 7 weeks. And then I got caught by the RAs who, when I was in class one day, raided the dorm room, found all the pot, came back from the school, go into my dorm. I'm locked out of it. I go downstairs to speak to the RA. She's in there with all the marijuana on the table. She's like, hey, you have two options. You can go pack up your stuff and leave, or we're going to call the cops. So I pack my stuff up, I leave, I go knocking on my mom's door, tell her what happened, and she is disgusted. She is fuming, she's crying, she's angry, she's just wailing on me, you fucking idiot. Rightfully so, you know? Um, and so I said, you know what, Mom, I'm gonna stop. I promise I'm gonna stop. Did I stop? No, I didn't stop. Why would I stop, right? And this path I'm gonna talk about now is pretty dark. During the time I was, I'd say 18 to 21, I've been in 14 inpatient facilities, countless amount of detoxes. I don't even know, psych wards. But after I got kicked out and went back home, I went to my first rehab called Integrity House in Newark, New Jersey. Funny thing about that, my dad graduated that program three times in his early 20s, in his 30s, and he was there. It was a rehab, the town over from us, and it was a really, really strict program. It was a TC program, a therapeutic community, which is pretty much like in your face, screaming and yelling at you, all that type of stuff. Um, very structured, you know, only like three cigarettes a day. It was just like super structured and whatnot. And my first time there, I graduated, right? I did the program. I did it. And I got back out. But while I was in that program, I was talking to all the guys in there, and some guys are stipulated from prison and whatnot at this facility, through probation and all that stuff and parole. So we got actual people from prison that come to this rehab when they're let out, kind of like a halfway house situation as well. Graduate there. And I was remember talking to a bunch of guys and just pure like drug talk and whatnot. And they said something about crack cocaine and you know how most drug dealers who sell heroin also sell crack cocaine. And I got the great idea. I said, "Fuck, man." I had a reservation. I said, I said to myself, when I get out of here, I want to know what that feels like, right? Because heroin's not working out right now. Maybe I can do crack, and that might be better for me. So believe it or not, I get out of there. I'm about, I'd say less than a week sober. I'd say like 4 or 5 days. Well, not sober, but um 4 or 5 days removed from the place. I was sober the whole time. And I get out. First couple days are great, and I have the great ideas. You know what? I'm gonna go see that dealer, down where they were telling me on 11th and 4th in Newark, New Jersey, and go see what's going on down there. And maybe this guy will have some crack for me. I go there, see guys on the corner selling drugs. I asked him, it's like, hey, you got crack? He's like, yeah, what do you need? I didn't even know what the fuck to get. So I was like, I don't know. How much does $20 worth get me? Gave him the money, gave me the stuff. Now I don't even know how to fucking use this thing. I know you got to smoke it, but I'm like, what the fuck? I'm Googling shit. So I find out, oh shit, I'm going to go to the gas station. They got that there. Fill it up. I go home. I smoke it. And I got that feeling all over again. Holy shit. And I fell in love. I fell in love, man. I'm 19 years old. Um, don't have a job, obviously. Kicked out of college. Mom's super upset. And that's where this goes from like, 0 to 100. And it's 2 years of just misery. Constantly just begging for money, stealing stuff again, always in trouble, arrested, trying to just do whatever I could to just get that next fix, right? And during all this time, I just remember now that I sit here is just the way I made, the most important people in my life feel. My mom's let down, and now now everybody we're from a small town, so like everybody in the town knows, like, oh, Jerry, that's the junkie, right? That's Angel's son. He's the junkie who begs for money outside of Dunkin' Donuts, and he's 19 years old. Look how his life turned out, right? Um, you know, my mom has to deal with that stuff. She loses friends over it and whatnot, or, girlfriends stop, really communicating with her because of me. And, I'm robbing different people. I'm begging for money for this one. I'm hitting up my old friends' moms and dads. Hey, can you spot me 20 bucks? Can you do this? And just so embarrassing, and just like I said, constantly just going away. And that was most of the time where I was just you know, jumping from rehab to rehab, detox to detox, psych ward. I mean, sometimes there was times where I friggin' smoked crack for 3, 4, 5 days in a row without sleep and just walked into a psych ward, said I was going to kill myself because I didn't want to go back home and face my mom and walk in there, stay there for 3 days and get back out and do it all over again. There was even stories like you know, my mom would come home from work, I would be missing, didn't know where the hell I was, have her, friends and her neighbors looking for me at, 8, 9, 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock at night, calling the police. Hey, have you seen my son? Whatnot, all that stuff. And it finally got to the point where 2021 where I was missing for a couple weeks, haven't returned home. And I want to talk about this because it's pretty important. My mom, she never gave up on me. One thing I'll say, even through like addiction and whatnot, yeah, she called me some bad names. Yeah, she hit me and threw shit at me, but she never gave up on me. She kicked me out of her house for sure, and if I came back, it was for food and whatnot, that she would leave on the steps sometimes, you know, but she never ever like actually gave up on me. She always would tell me like, "Hey, you can do this. Let's try this again. Let's try this place. Let's go here and whatnot. Hey, maybe this place is better for you." But all these places they tell you the same thing, right? I learned the same thing at my first rehab than I did at the 14th one. They told me the same shit, but you know, um, I would say my lowest moment in sobriety was July 2nd. Sorry, July 2nd, 2021. I was missing for a good amount of time, couple weeks. And I would stay in a Dunkin' Donuts dumpster in the town over. Um, that's where I would sleep, and I'd pick up cigarette butts off the ground and had piss in my pants and I didn't shower, I didn't brush my teeth. Um, and for some reason that day they were doing construction on the Dunkin' Donuts that my mom goes to. So she had to go to a different Dunkin' Donuts because I know every morning for 20, 30 years she goes to the Dunkin' Donuts and she has exact change and she orders a hot coffee, cream, no sugar. Like that's her order and she always has exact change and she goes to that specific Dunkin' Donuts her whole life. And then they were doing construction that day, so she had to go to the town over's Dunkin' Donuts. And that's where she found me, next to the dumpster. And she picked me up, said, "Hey, we're gonna go get some help." I was broken. I was like, "Fuck, I'm done. I don't want to do this no more." Like I gave up. Like I really didn't want to get sober. I'll be honest. Like I just wanted to sleep in a fucking bed, right? Like I just didn't want to be on the street no more. But I was just always so embarrassed, like to even go back home and face my mom. So she found me that day. And now we're at the point now where like my insurance through my mom, because I was always under her insurance, um, they pretty much said, yeah, we're done. It's yeah, we're not paying for this fucking kid. I mean, to go to these different rehabs and whatnot, like you're cut off, right? So my mom calls one of her cousins who owns a rehab in Scottsdale, Arizona, and pretty much begs him to scholarship me there. And this is the first time where I actually went far away to a place. I visited every place in New Jersey, every fucking detox, every psych ward, every rehab. I've been to them all in New Jersey, but you know, my mom said, "Hey, what do you think about this time going far away?" And I'm like, "Fuck, send me wherever. I don't give a fuck." Um, so she sent me to Scottsdale, Arizona. Um, and before I get to my sobriety part of the story, on July 3rd, 2015, the day I flew out, I demanded my mom and my sister to buy me crack cocaine one last time. And the way I did it was I told them, I said, "Hey, I ain't going nowhere unless I do crack one more time." And my mom refused. She refused. "No, you're not doing it." And my, how old? 17-year-old sister at the time, I'm 21. 17-year-old sister at the time was like, "You know what, mom? If he wants to smoke crack, you're going to do it in front of me. And then we'll take you to the airport." And that was such a low moment. Such a low moment where my mom went to the drug dealer, got me $10 worth of crack, went to the Shell gas station, got me the stem and choy. I filled it up and I smoked crack for the last time right in front of my little sister. And July 3rd, I hopped on a plane and went to Scottsdale, Arizona. Just give me a second, please. So I go to Scottsdale and I meet this guy. I go there. I got a couple pairs of underwear that my mom was able to get me at TJ Maxx, couple pairs of boxers and socks, a couple t-shirts, and I had like one or two pairs of pants because I sold the rest of my clothes. And for some reason, I had a flashlight. I don't know why, but I go there and I land. And before I actually land, I'm talking to the. Remember this story? The person on the plane asked me, he's like, "Oh, what are you going to Scottsdale for?" I said, "Business." They probably knew I wasn't going there for fucking no business. I was 115, 20 pounds, fucking smelled like shit. Fucking crazy. But I land in Scottsdale. It's late. And I got to meet all the people that I'm gonna be living with in the house. And this one kid, Charlie, he's been there like a month or two. He's like, "You hungry?" I'm like, "Yeah, dude, I'm actually fucking pretty hungry, man. I haven't eaten in so long." He's like, "I'll make you a burger." Man, that was the fucking best burger I ever had. The fucking best burger I ever had. And we was talking and whatnot, and during the conversation, everybody's saying like, "Hey, man, you don't want to get this guy Joe Ross. Do whatever you can to not get this counselor Joe Ross. He's gonna fucking make you feel like shit." So all that night, I'm fucking like, "Oh man, tomorrow we're gonna go into a group and whatnot, and I don't want to fucking meet this guy, fucking Joe Ross." And sure enough, July 4th, the holiday, no meetings open and whatnot, really. They kept us inside and whatnot. Guy in a beautiful suit comes and looks at me and he's like, "Gerard?" I'm like, "Yeah." "New Jersey?" I'm like, "Yeah." "Drug of choice?" I say, "Crack cocaine." But I went to go shake his hand. He said, "Put your motherfucking hand down." He's like, "I don't shake hands with fucking junkies." He's like, "You're in my room, the lion's den." Now I'm like, "What?" Like, okay, go tell my, friends that I met at the house, like, Yeah, I'm in this guy's fucking room. You guys told me this guy was bad news. This is going to be terrible. And that was the best thing that ever happened to me. And this guy Joe Ross, he was man, the best guy I ever met in my life. Saved my life. And he had a interesting process that he would go about. Like he would he made me realize like, hey man, it's not just about you. It's about those other people that are back home. And I vividly remember it was this whiteboard that he would bring out and he would put on it and he would split it up. He would say, what you give your family and what your family gives you. And I still remember the board because what I was giving my family was heartache, tears, debt, constant worry, fear. And what my family would give me was unconditional love, money, roof over, my head, anything I ever wanted. My family gave me all those things and I gave them all that stuff. And for the first time in my life, I made it about other people. And like I said, yeah, man, like story, okay? I asked you guys to identify with the feelings. Not everybody is gonna or can get sober because of other people. That's just what happened to me. I didn't do it for me in the beginning. I made this shit about my mom. I made it about my sister. I didn't have enough in me at the time to do it for me. And it's in the title that Raw posted. It's a quote. It says it'll never stop until you stop. So that's an important quote for me. And I asked Joe Ross. I said, "Hey Joe, one day after group, I said, when does it all stop, right? Like when does the constant lying, arrested, stealing, using drugs, using crack, all these times, when does it stop?" And never forget, he looked at me and he said, "It'll never stop until you stop." And I stopped. I made it about other people. For the first time in my life, I listened. Right? He was such a strict guy. I wasn't allowed to speak in meetings until I was a year sober. I didn't say a fucking word, I swear to God. I didn't say one word in a meeting until I was a year sober. He didn't let me. He told me I didn't know shit, that I had to listen because I wasn't a good listener, right? I was a good manipulator. I can manipulate anybody. I could lie to anybody. I never listened. So I shut my fucking mouth for a whole year straight. I got a sponsor. I got a commitment. I went through the steps. I did whatever I could to help other people. Hey man, I'm going to this meeting. If you need a ride, hop in with me. I listened to what everybody said in the meeting. I followed the steps. I did everything. I do the um I do the 90 days there. I graduate. And around my 80th day, there was no plan for me to like go back home. So I go to Joe and I say, "Yo, what's going on? I'm graduating in like 10 days, bro." He's like, "What are you talking about?" I'm like they got my flight booked back home and whatnot. He laughed. He said, "Gerard, you ain't going home. You don't have a home right now." I was like, "What do you mean? My mom will take me back." "You don't have a home right now. You're going to sober living. You're going to my sober living." And you know what? I said, "Okay, no problem, Joe. I'm still listening. I'm still doing what other people say, right? I'm still taking suggestions from other people that got more time than me." So I listened to him and I went to his sober living. And I stayed there for about 6 months. I got a job working a minimum wage, bagging groceries. That was my first job in sobriety. And I was so embarrassed in the beginning to accept that job because I didn't want to bag groceries, right? But guess what? It was one of the best fucking jobs I ever had in my life. I swear to God, to this day, I'll say it. I had so much fucking fun in that job. It was awesome. Awesome. Just seeing the old ladies and old men like complain and whatnot. It was just so funny, so cool. But it taught me something. It taught me like humility, right? That's what it taught. It taught me how to be humble. So I got a job working minimum wage. And I'll tell you what, I loved it, right? But it was tough to pay my sober living fee at the time, you know? So you know what I did? I made a fake resume on the Word, and I applied on Indeed. And I told them that I was a journeyman electrician for this solar company. I'll never forget, it was called Harmon Solar. And I made a fake resume. I said I was journeyman electrician. I had 5 years experience and whatnot. They called me. They was like, "Hey, Jerry, we'd love for you to interview for the position." Now I'm like, "Oh shit, how the fuck? I didn't think they would accept it. How am I going to get out of this?" So I say, "You know what? I'm going to go in the interview and I'm just going to tell them the truth." So I went in the interview, get in the interview, give him my license. He's like, "Jerry, what are you doing from New Jersey here?" So I was like, "Hey, Alfred, I'm going to be honest. I don't know shit about electric. I just know that if you give me a job working for minimum wage, I'll be your hardest worker and I'll never complain and I'll be on time every single day. I just got out of a treatment facility. I'm in a sober living now. You know, I got more than 6 months clean and whatnot in sobriety. I go to meetings every single day. I got a sponsor and he starts to cry. I'm like, what the fuck? Why is this guy crying? And I told this story a couple times. I'm like, why is this guy crying? What the fuck did I say? I'm like, yo, are you okay? He said, I just celebrated 25 years of continuous sobriety. Crazy how God works, right? Gives me the job. I become an electrician after a couple of years, which is crazy. Became an electrician. And I decided to go back home after a couple years. And I felt like I was ready. I stayed in Arizona for about 3.5, 4 years, and I felt like it was time. I missed my mom. I missed my sister. My dad's in prison at the time still, so there's nobody really there for them, my mom and whatnot. And I applied for a union job back in New Jersey, and I got it. So my mom was still a little nervous at the time, even though I had multiple years of sobriety. And I go back home. It's excellent. I stay sober. I land a dream job working as a pipe fitter in the union. Now I have some experience and whatnot, so it helped me out. But it's a prestigious company. It's one of the largest utility companies in the country, and made some great friends. Um, been to all the meetings you can think of in New Jersey, shared everywhere. Um, Started making funny videos. Somehow they got picked up by different people, and I started working for this guy, Bobby Berger, Brilliantly Dumb, who does Bob Does Sports, and he hired me. So I was working part-time with him, part-time in the union. And then a guy named Dave Portnoy sees my videos, and all of a sudden he wants me to work at his job. And it was a big fight with my mom because she's like, "Hey, you're not going to leave your pension." Well, I'm like, "Mom, this company's huge. They want me to work there, and this guy said he'll double my salary." And my mom's like, "Bullshit, he won't double shit." And sure enough, he doubled my salary, and I came to Barstool Sports. And it's been so much fun here. But like I said in that, 9-year post, man, this was one of the toughest years in sobriety that I ever had. Um, I lost Joe Ross due to an overdose. Joe was clean for a long time, over a decade, and decided one day that he could drink, and he drank and he got drunk, and the next day he drank and he got drunk, and the next day he drank and he got drunk, and by like the fourth or fifth day, he decided, hey, it's time for some crack cocaine again. So he got some crack cocaine, ordered a couple prostitutes to the room, and overdosed in a hotel room by himself in Scottsdale, Arizona. And man, that was the toughest day. That was the toughest day. I'll never forget his. I was like Joe Ross's prodigy. You know, and I'll tell you another fact. Because he also told me this in the Lion's Den. He said he said two or three of you guys might stay sober for a year. And I went to rehab with 80 something people at the time, 85, 87 were in there. He said, a couple of you will stay sober for a year. One of you guys is going to stay sober for more than 5 years. And I kid you not, I was the only one that stayed sober for more than 5 years there. But, I was his prodigy, so he always loved to talk about me to his family and whatnot. And, I became like this famous guy on the internet or whatever. And, I've never forget his daughter Bliss called me and he said, Jerry, bad news. And I knew right away. I knew right away, because I just knew something was wrong. And she said, Joe passed away. And I was like, oh man. So that happened this year, and it was tough for me, if it wasn't for him, I don't know where I would be. I really don't, because I know I could say I know for a fact if I went home after that 90 days, I was done. I was done. I still had reservations, I think, man. But he pushed me and just demanded, you ain't going home. There's nowhere to go. You're staying here. You know what I mean? You're gonna go to my sober living and whatnot. He didn't only teach me, right, like just stuff about sobriety. He just taught me how to be a good person and be a man, right? Um, and be a leader. And he taught me how to just stick with winners. And one of the most important things he ever taught me was to help other people. And that's just what I try to do today, man. I started the Friend of Jerry stuff back when Barstool allowed me to have the podcast, and it's just tough with like we have so many alcohol brands and whatnot, like sponsors were like shying away from it and didn't really agree with it because 80% of our sponsorship is alcohol based and whatnot. So it's hard to have a sobriety stuff on Barstool Sports, So that went away, but we started a group every Tuesday that we do, which Nicole is there week in and week out. On my schedule, it's tough to be there every day, especially because I stream every Tuesday and whatnot. So shout out to Nicole and congratulations on 2 years. That's fucking incredible, man. Still remember your first day. And that's just what I do today. I'm a part of the No Matter What Club. I don't pick up no matter what. Deaths, arguments, stuff goes wrong. Broke. I'm 9 years sober. This is the brokest I ever been. I swear to God, this is the brokest I ever been. I bought a house, which is crazy, right? I never dreamed of owning a house. I got a fucking sauna. I got a cold tub. I'm not supposed to have these things, right? Motherfucker, I got heated floors in my house. I'm not supposed to have these things. You know, I'm I wasn't supposed to be here. I wasn't. Because I'll tell you one thing. If my mom, I got emotional a couple years back because I had a thought I remembered. The day my mom found me in the morning, I had a plan. I was tired of smoking crack because the effect wasn't there anymore, so I was gonna shoot it. And I remember that day, and that's the day my mom found me because I think if she didn't find me that day, I would have shot it and I probably would have died because I didn't know what the fuck I was doing, how much to do, whatnot. I probably would have died. But like I said, I'm a part of now. No matter what club, I don't pick up no matter what, man. I do my best to help other people. I'm a part of a facility called Diamond Recovery, and I do my best to spread the message. We do our best to help as many people as we can. I show up. I offer my advice. I try to be a productive member of society today, which is am. I pay my taxes. All my bills are paid, I'm not late on anything. Um, and I just want all you guys to know, there's if anybody's new here and whatnot, and they told me, they said, Jerry, you could have a life beyond your wildest dreams. And I didn't believe it at the time. And today I do. Today I do. I live a life beyond my wildest dreams. I never expected I would be here, but you know what? I'm here. And I plan to stay here. But even 9 years later, I said it in my 9-year post. I still take it one day at a time. There's days where I have to. There's I can't look for a 10 year sober today. I just got to stay sober today, and God willing, I'll get there. Because in the beginning I had a tough time. I would get jealous a little bit of if a guy had more clean time than me. I'm like, how the fuck this guy has 5 years? No way, bullshit. He don't got no 5 years sober. Which is crazy. And and those all those guys, man, they just one day at a time, man. And one day turns into 2 days, 2 days, 3 days, a week, a month, and then before you know it, you're 9 years sober. So I want to appreciate, Raw for having me on. Um, I'm available to answer any questions after the meeting if you guys want. And, just know that, I'm here for advice, anything you need. I will do my best I can to help out. I hope you guys, identified something within my story. I really appreciate it, and hope to see you guys soon.